Welcome to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. आप सबको प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब and shalom. It's not even 10 days yet for the Trump administration to take charge, and there is a lot of shake-up going on everywhere, left and right. And what is surprising to me is not only that the Congress has literally, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, they have walked away from their responsibility. We should not forget that the American system is based on independent executive, which is Trump, independent judiciary, which is Supreme Court and the other courts, and independent legislative branch, which is the House of Representatives and Senators. Now, Republicans had already accepted Trump as a king. So, Democrats also, because they lost election and they are buying into that it was a landslide win for Trump, which was not a landslide. He actually got percentage-wise less vote, less than 50% of the total eligible voters. But I have talked about it before also, and I mentioned that how minority rules majority. I've said that before and I'm repeating it again. Minority rules majority. That is the sad part of democratic elections. Why? Because 100% voting never takes place, and whatever voting takes place, out of that voting, whosoever gets the 50 plus 1% is declared a winner. So if, let us say, out of 170 people came out to vote, you need 36%, 36 votes. 35 in the mid, 36, so 35 plus 1, okay? Now that 36% is ruling not only on that 36% who voted for them, but also other 64%, which is close to the double. And I'm giving you 70%. Overall voting never goes beyond 65% in America. It is very rare when it goes beyond that. So having said that, we'll talk about it more in detail, but let us first talk about the misinformation, disinformation, and lying, including some of the people who aspire to lead the community. And community, and I'm talking about communities of color, whether those are Sikhs or Muslims or Hindus. You know, in the morning, you send out a report saying that the Gurdwaras were searched by IC. ICE raided the Gurdwaras, ICE, which is basically the acronym for the federal government's immigration enforcement agency. That they raided the Gurdwaras in New York and in New Jersey, and they arrested people. As soon as I opened up the Tribune in the morning, I saw that news and I literally shook my head that a paper of that kind of eminence, that those papers which I have been reading since I think about 67, maybe 68. I'm talking about the Tribune, which is printed from Chandigarh. And it had such a bold, you know, that ICE raided the Gurdwaras in New York and New Jersey, and they picked up the people. Means the people from the congregation means Sikhs. So I immediately, before I replied to the Tribune, which I really could not, they have this email where you can contact them and send them the message. It never went through. But I made the calls within the New York, I made the calls within New Jersey, and in New Jersey there was a gentleman named Baljinder Singh Broad who made calls to every Gurdwara to find out what's going on. Then he called me back, and nothing was going on anywhere. And interestingly, here, a person who posted that 2 Sikhs were arrested by ICE raid on the Gurdwaras, in the evening he is standing with Gyani Dharamveer Singh and saying, Gyani Dharamveer Singh is saying that nobody got arrested. People are already scared. And as far as I'm concerned, the way I am, the way I have been, I have already been, banging my head with some of the Indo-Caribbean people who got elected as leaders within Indo-Caribbean community, where he suggested that we should carry, our green cards on us or our other stuff on us, and I was like, no. Why should you? Just because you look different, just because your color is not white, you should not carry any ID. You are not required to carry any ID. Do they have the ICE to ask you and stop you? Yeah. After the break, I will go over your rights. What are your rights? But the important thing is that no, you do not need to carry your ID to begin with. Yeah. Should you be polite? Yeah. Should you be cooperating? Yes. The first question should be, who are you? Because for me, it is much more than what this is happening right now. You scare the people. By scaring the people, you make them, push them to submission. And once they are in submission, so you are the king. And that is what is exactly happening. He already had all the Republicans into submission, and I am still waiting his, I should say, whatever it is, honorable former majority US Senate leader Mitch McConnell to make a statement. He hasn't. Whether we agree or we don't agree, he is the one single hand who actually brought the whole situation where we are today. Because January 6th was done, and Donald Trump, the former and the current president, had his hand in it, and Mitch McConnell let him go free. When he said there are other ways, when he was getting impeached. Had he gotten impeached in 2021, he could not have been a candidate for the presidentship. That is the only way to prevent somebody from not being a candidate. You can be a criminal, which he is, and he has been, found guilty, and he had felony against him, but he's the president. The other issues, the other charges, they have been stopped in their tracks. They have not really dropped the charges, but they have postponed the charges. Maybe after the term is over, who knows if those charges may come up or they may not come up. I doubt if they will ever come up, because what I'm seeing here is that the Democrats are also, they have sort of like surrendered. Let's take a break. After the break, I will be right back. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Tour once again. Now let us go over the rights. First, let me repeat it again. Can ICE go into any place of worship and raid those places of worship looking for, the criminals who have committed a crime? Yes, they can. Have they done it yet? No, they haven't. The churches, which are in millions in this country, they are already telling the administration that no, do not enter the house of worship. So gurdwaras are also house of worship. If they can't and they won't enter the church, they will not enter the gurdwara or the Hindu temple or a mosque. I already see the people out there on the streets. There are less number of people. Even in the Gurdwara, there are not people coming out. Why? Because somebody decided to lie to the public and put it on the social media, including the newspapers in India, including some of those YouTubers from India. And I'm pretty sure it happened in other countries also. But let's go over what your rights are if you are stopped, okay? And these are actually the rights based on the Constitution of the United States. Yeah, I understand that it has been sort of like thrown into garbage in a sense, but what is happening here is you still have the rights. Yes, it can be a pain in the neck going to the court, fighting for your rights. But I always believe that if you want to have your rights the way they are supposed to be, then not only that you should be fighting it, but there should be people out there who should be actually supporting that person who is fighting it. So let me go over first the rights and how to respond in case. I have two different documents, one from a local city council person from New York City, and the other one actually I got from Washington, D.C. There is, Immigrant Defense Project, a nonprofit organization, which actually has issued the note, and that's what I'm going to read now. First of all, you have the right to remain silent, okay? Don't run. You have the right to remain silent, don't run away, and don't lie. Remember that. That's the very first thing, okay? The other thing, which I just mentioned, and I'm reading from here, you are not required to present your identification to immigration officials. Let me repeat it again. You are not required to present your identification to immigration officials. And if they ask you to provide your passport or national ID card, you do not have to provide that either unless you are given a judicial warrant that, okay, Harpreet, here are the warrants. I am Mr. XYZ from ICE and I am serving you these warrants to give me your passport or your ID. And whatever is in that warrant, only that is something which you have to provide. Don't volunteer that I have this, I have that, I have that. No, I know this, I know this body, I know that body. No, they don't care who you know. What is important for you is to know your rights. Again, don't lie. Number two, ask for judicial warrant for search. If they don't have it, you don't have to provide it. Number three, when you are not providing all this, again, let me repeat it. When you are not providing all this to them voluntarily, and they start searching you, they don't have the search warrants, you tell them, I do not consent to this search. That's your right. Your right is nobody can touch you unless you consent. Nobody can search you unless you consent. You know, when we take the subways here, you get searched, right? If you tell them you don't want to get searched, the only thing they can do is they can tell you, okay, you are not allowed to get into the subway station and take the train because you did not consent to the search. So make a U-turn and leave. Same way, you have the right to tell them that you do not consent to this search, which means you are against getting searched. Okay? Number 4, you have right to record, which means you have right, everybody carries it. You can start making the video by politely saying that I do not consent to search, and I, under my own personal rights, I am going to make the videos. So, these are the things which you have. I'm just trying to see if there is anything which I'm missing. No, not from this one, okay? So if I stops you, let me go over it again. Right before the break, you have the right to remain silent, don't run, and don't lie. You are not required to present your identification unless they have officially warrant signed by a judge of a court who has the authorization to do it. You cannot. Do not consent to the search because you don't want get to be searched. And you have the right to record whatever is happening. So you have the camera, you have the phone, you can start recording, you can take the picture, take the name of the officer, whosoever it is, all those, that information. And this information is very important for you to protect your rights so that you know what your rights are and you do not get harassed. And there is another thing which actually, while I was talking, I was looking into it, it just popped up in my mind, which I definitely will talk more in more detail after the break, is that you may now start getting the calls that this is so and so from ICE, and am I speaking to Harpreet? And you say, if you say yes, and they can say, okay, I have warrants to arrest you and deport you because you are not a green card holder or you are not a citizen of US. So if you want to stay here in the US, send $10,000, $5,000, $20,000 to XYZ place. This way I will clear your name and you can stay in the United States. This is another fraud which is about to happen. I'm just waiting when they will start it. We have been getting all this because the taxes just started. You have been getting all these calls about, I'm from IRS, I'm doing this, So now add that one more thing to it, that this is an officer from ICE unit, Immigration Enforcement Unit, and we are actually Okay? So these are your rights which you should and your mind repeat it again and again and again till you know what it is. So let's take a break, and after the break I will be right back with some more information before we wrap up the show. But this is something for me, it is very important that I should share with you. Let us take a small break here. Welcome back to Mainstream. Now let us go to the next chapter, next page of what ICE actually can do. Okay, they can, anyone without lawful immigrant status, the people who have applied for a political asylum or who have the cases going on and they have the work authorization, those are not considered unlawful immigrant. Okay, because they already have work authorizations and they have the social security. Okay, but the people who are, visa holders, who have applied for refugee status, even in certain cases permanent green card holders, if they have certain criminal convictions, let me repeat it again, a lawful permanent resident, a refugee, and a visa holders, if they have certain criminal convictions, ICE do have the right to arrest you. Now the question comes in, if they stop you and you know that one of these things apply to you, go to the first one which I told you, that you do not have to carry your ID on you, you have the right to remain silent, don't run, don't tell the lie, ask for the judicial warrants, and do not consent to the search, and right to record. Okay, so that is something which you should know. Okay, now the question comes in, this is where I have the biggest issue with the Trump administration. People voted for Trump, even South Asian community, they voted so much comparatively as compared to previous election. And I at that time mentioned that just wait and then see what would happen. And we are not even into 10 days yet. We are already seeing a lot of things happening left and right, and a lot of actions which are being taken, they are illegal. They are already being challenged in the courts. There are already stay orders in the courts about it, but I will talk about that in a minute. Threat to national security. He has been telling all the immigrants are threat to national security, just because our color is different. Okay, we are not white. Okay, public safety. Okay, threat to public safety, which means again criminal cases and any charges involving firearms. Okay, so those are the things which basically, if you have any of those things and you are out there, then yes, I will definitely tell you then you should be concerned about it. But again, even if you have that record, make sure that you follow this, what I said before, because it is important. Now, if ICE agents usually identify the person they want to arrest ahead of time, then they go to home, courthouses, shelters, and even workplace to look for that person. Okay, it's like if they know who they are going to arrest, they already have the detail, they have the picture of the person, this and that. So these are the places where they can go. Okay. So they can also wait on the street for that person if they are looking for it. Okay, don't forget the rights again. I know I am repeating it again and again. So these are the few of the things which I am going to talk about it later on also in the show. But there are some other important things which need to be covered in today's show. He pardoned the January 6 activists, right? Those people who attacked the Capitol. One of the person who actually was convicted and he was put behind the bars for 6 months. Yesterday or day before yesterday in Indiana, he got shot and killed by a deputy in that area. Why? He had the firearm, whatever happened, the inquiry is still going on. But it was a person who actually was on the scene along with his dad. And his dad actually has attacked a police officer who was protecting the Capitol. Okay? So that kid is actually dead now. So that's one thing. Number two, yesterday, the acting Attorney General of the US fired the people who were investigating Trump for Mar-a-Lago and everything. So anybody who worked with Jack Smith, he fired them. Why? Because he said we cannot trust them. You know, these are carrier people, public servants, who had been serving, and one of them who got fired, he actually had investigated some of Barack Hussein Obama's acts also. Now look at this thing. He was in administration under Obama being the president, but he was still investigating him. The President Obama at that time, he did not fire him. Joe Biden had his 4 years, he did not fire him. But Trump, because he won based on basically, you know, two things. One, all immigrants are, criminals. And two, Department of Justice has been weaponized. Now it is weaponized because they have fired the people who were public servants and worked their, they gave their best to the services which they were doing. You take the oath to the Constitution, you take the oath to deliver based on the laws of the land. You do not take an oath to protect the king, and that is what is happening right now. Everything is being done to protect the king, and the people around him, they are all in line to protect the king. And my concern is America may go the way Adolf Hitler did. This is how he did it, and history is repeating itself. On top of that, we have, the senators and the Congress leaders who have fallen in line just to appease him, make him happy. Everybody is there to make him happy. Look at Hegseth, who got, appointed as Secretary of Defense. Senator Tillis, who actually made his statement after sworn affidavit came in that he cannot support Hegseth. He did supported him. And now we have a Secretary of Defense who has previously gotten drunk on the job. He has been escorted out of his job while he was drunk and everything. When you look at this, what baffled me actually is, I should not be surprised again. But then what can you do? During his previous administration, there were people who actually refused to serve with him. This time he picked up only the people he wanted, that he knew that who will kiss the ring, who will do what he wants them to do. And that's exactly what they are doing. Remember Bill Barr, his previous Attorney General? He did everything to protect Donald Trump. Except when he lost the election, Trump was asking him to do and say that we are not sure if elections took place properly and there was no fraud committed. He refused to say that, and Trump actually fired him. And he left. He was called back that no, he did not mean to fire you, blah, blah, blah. So he came back. Within a week, he put in his resignation and he was gone. Now, you see when Joe Biden, everybody was crying about Joe Biden pardoning X, Y, and Z people. I was one of them. I am still one of them who says he should not have done it. But now you see what actually they were aware of, that what he can do and what he will do once he is sitting in that chair. So James McHenry actually is the one who did that. And interestingly, I'm going to read the memo which he wrote, a little bit of it. In that memo, he did not mention a single line that you are being fired because you did not do your job or you were not efficient enough. No, not at all. Actually, it's interesting. When I got fired from one of my jobs, when I asked my boss, the commissioner, at that time, that what's the reason, I just want to know. And he refused to give me the reason. I asked him, I have misbehaved with the people? He said, no. I said, I haven't done my job. I said, no. He said, no. Whereas 1 week before that, I was being patted on my back for doing excellent job. And when I asked him 2-3 more questions, he said, I do not have to give you any reason to fire you. So this is exactly what happened. He's saying, as President Trump declared on his first day back in office, the American people have witnessed the previous administration engage in a systematic campaign against its perceived political opponents. See, the perceived political opponents. It was not perceived. He did everything, including January 6th. Weaponizing the legal force of numerous federal law enforcement agencies, Department of Justice. This is called making DOJ as a weapon, which they are doing by firing the people who did their job, against those perceived political opponents in the form of investigations, prosecutions, civil enforcement actions, and other related actions. Nowhere was that effort more salient than in the unprecedented prosecutions the Department of Justice vigorously pursued against President Trump himself. See? The king. The king has to be the king, doesn't matter what. And that is something which actually bothers me, and I'm really concerned about it, that how these things will end up and where they will end up. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this whole show today devoted to this information. So again, remember the first 4 things which I said before I go. Right to remain silent, don't run, do not lie, not required to present any identification, do not consent to the search, and right to record. Having said that, till next time, good night and good luck.